Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Stephen King Cast, one man's musings on the works of Stephen King. Each week, I will review one entry in the bibliography of Stephen King in the chronological order of publication. And welcome, everyone, to the show. If you are newly joining us for the first time, or if you have been here since the very beginning or in the earlier days, welcome to the longest running Stephen King podcast on the internet. Just a little update on what this show is at the moment and how to best enjoy the Stephen King cast. I'm currently on a exploration of all of the TV adaptations that I never got around to the first time around in the podcast. And so today, what we're going to be getting, I will be examining Trucks. Have you seen Trucks? Probably not. I had not seen Trucks up until the need to review it for this podcast, which I'll be talking about in a little bit. But so what we're going to be getting over the next few weeks, I have already done Quicksilver Highway, The Shining on ABC TV. Coming up soon, you're going to be getting my review of Rose Red, The Diary of Ellen Rimbauer, the 2004 Salem's Lot starring Rob Lowe, Kingdom Hospital, Riding the Bullet, Nightmares and Dreamscapes, Desperation, Bag of Bones, Big Driver, and seasons 2 and 3 of Mr. Mercedes I never did, so I'm going to be getting to that, as well as Lisi's Story and Chapelwaite and The Institute. So there's a lot of good stuff coming. Why am I focusing right now on TV? Well, I was inspired by Welcome to Derry. The fact that this had just come out this past year, and it was a big success. I'm very happy for everyone that worked on the show and for Stephen King, naturally. I wasn't ultimately a major fan of that show, but I do love the idea of Stephen King being brought to us via television. So I wanted to focus on all of the stuff that I never got around to on television. So I'll be focusing on that for the near foreseeable future. And what I will be covering today is the adaptation of Stephen King's short story Trucks. So we'll be talking about Trucks today. But before I get to Trucks, I want to shout out a couple things. One, you can head on over to stephenkingcast.com. stephenkingcast.com is the official website of the Stephen King cast. It's really exciting that I finally got this website up and running. It is a nice way to be able to access the Stephen King cast in all of its glory. So one of the things that you'll be able to do there is, first of all, you have access to all of the episodes of the Stephen King cast. And what you'll be able to do is, depending on how you want to listen to particular batches of episodes, you will have choice. So if you just want to start at Carrie and work your way through the show chronologically, you can do that. So that's just subscribing to the podcast feed, and you have everything there at your disposal. But if you don't feel like hunting and pecking, and I can completely understand that, then you have a lot of options for you over at stephenkingcast.com. So if you go to the website and you go to collections, what you will find is a series of curated playlists organized by topic. So for instance, you can click on the Derry Chronicles, and once there, you will have all the reviews related to it. You will have the 3-part review of it. You will have the analysis of the conclusion of it. You will have the connections between it and The Dark Tower. You'll have the ABC TV miniseries review that includes new reviews. There's a new introduction to it, pretty lengthy review in which I contextualize the ABC TV miniseries with the 2017 adaptation and the legacy of the 2017 adaptation. You will have the 2-part review of the 2017 It. You will have the 2-part review of It Chapter 2. You will have all of the reviews of It Welcome to Derry. You will have the review of the novel Insomnia, as well as the analysis of the conclusion of Insomnia and the connections between Insomnia and The Dark Tower. So that's just an example. If you want everything related to Derry in one place, it's right there. So rather than just going through the podcast feed and listening to all of the It ones and then going to find the reviews for Insomnia, you don't have to do that. It's all right there for you. Similarly, by the time you listen to this, there should be curated collections of all of the short stories, and then a collection of all of the adaptations, and then a collection of everything related to The Dark Tower, and then a collection of everything related to Castle Rock. And then you could have everything, all of the non-Stephen King book reviews, and you can have all of the bonus episodes, and then all of the top 10 lists. So basically, I have curated all of this for your enjoyment, for your pleasure, how you want to be able to access the Stephen King Cast. Now, recently, I've gone through all of the episodes of the Stephen King Cast, which has been around since 2014, and I have cut out all of the audio, and I have re-recorded the intros, the outros, and the Wikipedia summaries in order to scrub all of the audio that had, or not the audio, but all of the music that had been there originally. Because when I originally did this, I was just having fun, and it just became a part of the podcast that I would include music that I was not asking permission for to help set the tone or relate it to the work that I was reviewing, or it could be a cheeky, fun, tongue-in-cheek, element to the review. So those are all gone, but having that music, that has always been a part of the Stephen King Cast. And you might say to yourself, because I've had a lot of reviews over the years where people have enjoyed it, and if you miss it, well, there's don't worry, I've thought about that. If you go to the Stephen King Cast, sorry, I keep saying it's not the, I've never called it the Stephen. Anyway, if you go to stephenkingcast.com and you click on playlists, it will take you to Spotify, and there are a number of different playlists based on the Stephen King books that include songs inspired by and are relevant to that particular text, along with the podcast review episodes. So that is a fun way to be able to listen to music revolving around thematically to the texts themselves. So that is there. Also, on the website, you will also find a link to the Patreon page, and that is the next big push for the Stephen King Cast. And what's fun about the Patreon page is that if you, depending on what tier you want to subscribe to, you can get a ton of episodes that are in the can. You'll have early access to them, but if you want to listen to my thoughts, you can sign to non-Stephen King related material. You can subscribe to a different tier and get comic book reviews, you can get movie reviews, you can get television reviews. So waiting at your disposal are my thoughts on Absolute Batman, the state of Batman, the state of the MCU, the review of Wonder Man, and you will have my review of Predator Badlands and more. So there's a lot waiting for you over at stephenkingcast.com, where you will have multiple opportunities to be able to enjoy everything related to this show. So thank you for that, everyone. Now what I wanted to do is to read a listener email, and everyone is invited to write into stephenkingcast@yahoo.com, or you can head on over to stephenkingcast.com and click on Contact Us, and you'll be able to fill out a form to send me a message that way as well. You can also follow me on Facebook, TikTok, Blue Sky, and on Instagram. But this email is from Matt, who writes, "Hello, good sir. I wanted to reach out to thank you for your podcast. I've been listening for the last 5 years and have really enjoyed your reviews and thoughts on the works of King. I work the afternoon shift and listen to you on my way home at night. I feel like my drive is done almost immediately when I start listening. Your insight aligns how I feel about a lot of his works. I enjoy the synopsis of the story, then how you feel about it, as well as the ending, if it lands or not. Just yesterday, I listened to your announcement about the future of the podcast and website, and I'm very excited to see you branching out into more works and information. 2 quick things, and I'll let you go. First, thank you. Thank you for recommending King Sorrow by Joe Hill. Fabulous story. I was pulled in immediately and cared so much for each character. I could imagine them in my mind from the get-go. So Matt is referring to my review of King Sorrow, which is a wonderful book that came out in October of 2025, written by Joe Hill. I fell in love with it. It became an all-time classic. So you can listen to my review on the feed, but you can also just do yourself a favor. If you have not read it, go out and buy it, blind buy it right now and read it. You will thank me later. It's a true masterpiece. And Matt continues, second, maybe you have discussed this before on previous podcasts I've missed, but have you ever reviewed King's short stories, like each one separately? I love to collect the stories when they release in the New Yorker and other publications. My thoughts were maybe to review 3 to 5 an episode, then share your feelings. I'm sure you've thought this already. LOL. Anyway, thank you again and keep up the insightful work from Matt. Matt, thank you so much for writing in about that second. If you're referring to the published collection of short stories like Night Shift and Skeleton Crew and Nightmares and Dreamscapes and Everything's Eventual and Just After Sunset and Bazaar of Bad Dreams, yes, everything is available to you, which is another reason why I wanted to create collections over at stephenkingcast.com. So hopefully by the time you listen to this, you can head right on over to stephenkingcast.com, check out collections, and find exactly what you're looking for, the short story collections, so that everything that you have is right there at your disposal. But in the meantime, if I haven't had a chance to put that together by the time that you are listening to this, then everything that you need is right there in the feeds in the chronological order of publication. So it should be there. If you can't find it, Matt, just shoot me an email at stephenkingcast@yahoo.com. All right, everyone. So that's the preamble for today's episode. Now let's get right into it. I'm going to be reviewing trucks as part of the ongoing series of reviews related to Stephen King's adaptations on the screen. So when it comes to trucks, this was a blind spot for me. It was a blind spot in my rear view, I guess you should say. And it's surprising to me because this, when it came out in 1997, it was on 1997 on USA, and it feels like it came out in 1997 on USA. That was a real high point for me in my Stephen King fandom. I had really been into the 1997 Steven Weber starring ABC TV miniseries of The Shining. And 2 years later, Storm of the Century would come, and I absolutely loved it. This is, coming off the heels of the Stand, and even the Langoliers, which I enjoyed, and even the Tommyknockers, which I enjoyed, and I was just in it. I was inundated and just fanboying for Stephen King and Stephen King properties. So for this to come out with no fanfare for me, this along with Quicksilver Highway, which also came out at the same time, I had no inkling to watch this movie, and I knew that it existed, and I never sought it out. Maybe it was because I never cared for the short story. Maybe it was because Maximum Overdrive had come out about 10 years prior, and it was already living in infamy. So I don't know the exact reason why I never watched Trucks. All that I know is that me not watching Trucks did not make my life any worse by having avoided it for the many years that I never watched it. And I'm questioning whether or not it has negatively impacting my existence now that I have watched it. So I'm going to get into it. But first, let me read the Wikipedia summary so we have a basis upon which I can build My analysis. So, Lunar is a small Nevada town kept alive by its military base near Area 51, and urban folklore featuring aliens. One morning, local, Phil, is killed after a truck with no driver veers into his home. A transfer truck carrying frozen meats later starts swerving erratically. The driver notices this, exits the trailer, and inspects it. The truck then locks the driver inside its trailer and drives off. Meanwhile, local resident Hope Gladstone, who has hiking and tourism business, picks up a group of tourists, Jack, Thad, and Abby. Hope and the tourists eventually come across Phil's truck, which is blocking the road. Then, driverless frozen meat truck nearly hits them. A driverless frozen meat truck nearly hits them. Distraught, Hope calls local Ray, having found Phil's corpse lying nearby, lacerated. Ray takes the group in his own car back to Lunar. The car, however, is hit and nearly destroyed by a yellow truck. The group eventually reaches a diner. Trucks with no drivers are circling the lot between the diner and Hope's cabins and Ray's gas station. News reports are also coming in, all timed between bouts of static. A report reveals that a large black cloud is a leak from a chemical factory accident near the military base. 2 hazmat workers are called in to investigate the cloud. However, one hazmat suit in their truck inflates with air, picks up an axe, and murders both workers. The truck then joins the others in Lunar. In a toy store, an RC Tonka dump truck breaks a window and eventually kills a postal worker. As the group is split up between the cabins and the diner, Ray's teenage son Logan and Abby are trapped with tourists Brad and June. Brad attempts to repair a seemingly dead truck near the cabins, but it animates and kills him. June is then rescued by Ray, who brings her back to the diner. Abby and Logan attempt to reach the diner, but become trapped in a drain pipe beneath the lot as trucks attempt to dump silt over them and asphyxiate them. Meanwhile, 2 rednecks beat Thad unconscious. One redneck is eventually knocked out by Jack while the second runs outside. Ray gets Logan and Abby out of the drain pipe, but cannot rescue the redneck, who is chased by the trucks and forced to flee into the nearest building, where he proceeds to get drunk on beer left there. He uses the beers to create Molotov cocktails, but accidentally kills himself in the process, blowing up a building. The trucks then leave Ray alone, sparing him. This prompts the humans to create a plan. Thad will use a motorcycle stored in the garage to sneak up to the base and seek help, while the group will sneak out at night and venture through the forest as Ray distracts the trucks. June wanders up a hillside where a truck kills her. At night, Logan rescues the motorcycle and brings it indoors before a truck destroys the garage. An outdoor payphone rings and Abby runs outside to answer it, causing Jack to shove her aside as the truck nearly hits her. However, Jack himself is crushed to death in the process. The truck knocks out the diner's water supply and electric generator. They spared Ray, believing that, as the gas station owner, he is the only human who can refuel them. As Ray and Hope refuel the trucks, Thad and Abby sneak away on the motorcycle. Ray, Hope, and Logan meet up in the forest. Police officer George does not make it, but shoots at the trucks, causing one to tip over and become stuck. The leader track unhooks from the trailer, kills George, and gets stuck in the diner after crashing into it. Ray finds a hunting rifle in the truck's body and shoots at the truck in the diner, causing the entire structure to explode. That morning, the burned-up truck returns to chase the 3 survivors, who climb aboard a helicopter and are saved. There, they find a traumatized Abby. Ray later realizes that no one is piloting the helicopter, which starts tilting upwards further into the sky. All right, so that's the conclusion of the Wikipedia summary. So let's get into the review. Here, we find ourselves at the beginning of the backwards slide of Stephen King adaptations. Now, I had already just talked about how 1997 was me in my prime Stephen King fandom. But at that time, we're also beginning to witness the real end of that heyday of Stephen King. So when we had Stephen King adaptations, I mean the late 70s and especially 80s really established him as the king of horror. From Christine to Salem's Lot to Carrie to Salem's Lot, Christine, Firestarter, Cujo, then Creepshow, all of these on on the big screen and Salem's Lot being on the small screen, these are big cultural touchstones that became recognizable right away. When there is a rabid dog or a dangerous dog, whoa, dog, that's a Cujo over there. That's because of the popularity of that movie. Stand By Me also is an incredible adaptation that broke barriers for Stephen King. And of course, there's The Shawshank Redemption. But by the time we get to 1997, unfortunately, the height of the movie adaptations has begun to subside, and the height of the television TV movies, which had a big boom with It and The Stand, and then to lesser degrees, the Tommyknockers, the Langoliers, and the Shining, all of which pulled in big numbers, but not nearly as culturally important as The Stand or It. We are on the back end of this now. We're starting to slide downward into the early 2000s, which was a low point for Stephen King. The early 2000s heading into like the 2010s. Because by the time I started the podcast, which was in 2014, the IP of Stephen King was at a real low. I've talked about this before. Talk about adaptations based on his works. There was the short story Grandma, which inspired a movie called Mercy, starring Chandler Riggs from The Walking Dead. And when I was walking through Best Buy and I saw it, I picked it up and I read it, and it said on the back somewhere that it was inspired by the short story by Stephen King, but nowhere was it sold as a Stephen King story. It had all this information from the star of The Walking Dead to the producer of Insidious and Paranormal Activity, all of these buzzwords and names, but nothing about Stephen King, which showed at that time he was not marketable enough to put on the cover. And I would say that we are witnessing the beginning of this now, when Trucks is coming along. It's not entirely there, but the cracks are beginning to show. And this movie itself is the second of two televised adaptations that year. The first being The Shining, like I talked, or I should say Stephen King's The Shining, a project that unfortunately, no matter how, even though it's more closely aligned to the source material, will always sit in the shadow of its film predecessor. Between The Shining and this, which came and went without really any fanfare, so much so that I hadn't, like I said, even been aware that existed until about a decade later. And this was at the height of my fandom and my TV watching also, by the way. It just, I don't understand how I didn't know about this. And it's not like I wasn't watching USA. I was watching USA. I was watching USA all the time, because talk about the TV version of The Shining. It starred Steven Weber. Well, do you know what was on USA all the time at that time? Steven Weber, the co-star of Wings, which was always on USA, which I watched all the time. So I should be primed to watch this USA television adaptation of a Stephen King movie. I mean, I was collecting TV Guide at this point. Guys, do you remember TV Guide? I thought about this. I was going through my old toys from my youth, and there was a TV Guide in there from when the X-Files first premiered, and when I brought this toy box over to my house that I currently live in to play with these toys with my daughter about 5 years ago, I found this TV Guide, and man, just being able to go through it and the smell. And so TV Guide, everyone, once upon a time, you had to really plan out when you were going to watch television, because you couldn't just hit a button and record it. And it wasn't on, there was no such thing as an on-demand where you could just pull it up. If you wanted to prepare your VCR You had to put a cartridge into a box, which would, and then set a timer, or be prepared to hit record on a button to record whatever it was you were watching on the television onto this VCR. Or if you didn't want to record it, you had to make sure that you knew what to look out for and what to prepare for. And so there was the TV guide, which would come out once a week. And I always looked forward to getting the TV guide, and there would be some news and some interviews and some things to look out for. And oh my God, in the fall, they had the big fall issue where they would tell everything what to expect for that fall, all the new shows and the returning shows. It was really, really exciting. You know, back in the day when paper and ink still mattered. But anyway, there was no reason why I shouldn't have watched it, but I didn't. And of course, this also, you know, I just talked about the TV adaptation of The Shining sitting in the shadow of Stanley Kubrick's version. This also sits under the shadow of Maximum Overdrive. And you can't talk about trucks without talking about Maximum Overdrive, which had come out a decade earlier, which by no means is a good movie, but at least the failure of Maximum Overdrive is an absolute joy to watch. You know, you sit and you watch Maximum Overdrive, and you are thoroughly entertained from start to finish. It is gloriously over the top. It has AC/DC, it has the Green Goblin as a villain in truck form, and of course there is just the knowledge that it not only was Stephen King's only directorial effort, but it was a complete cocaine binge the entire time. Maximum Overdrive, by no means a good movie, but oh my God, is it a great experience. You don't walk away from that without a smile on your face. Whereas this, you don't walk away from this with any feeling. This is complete empty calories of a television viewing experience. This movie just begins. Trucks comes to life, and it backs itself out of a salvage yard. Nearby at a local gas station, we start to meet the cast. First, Hope, played by Brenda Backey. I don't know how to pronounce her last name, but I saw this as I was watching this. I said, oh my God, American Gothic. Now, I'm going to stop and talk less about trucks and actually about American Gothic, who, the reason why I'm bringing this up, Brenda Backey, who plays Hope here, was the love interest of Gary Cole's devilish sheriff, Lucas Buck. That's Buck with a B. And it was the show American Gothic. It was it's a nearly forgotten 90s small town horror serial. If you want to see a Southern charm Leland Gaunt crossed with Randall Flagg with the swagger of Gary Cole in his prime, then this is the show for you. I loved this show. This is where Sarah Paulson, she of American Horror Story fame, first hit the scene, as well as Lucas Cole. You'll recognize him. And though he's not nearly in enough stuff, Jake Weber, who, if you're listening to this as a horror fan, you will recognize from Zack Snyder's remake of Dawn of the Dead. He was one of the survivors in them all. Now Jake Weber brought the heart and the quiet strength as the small town doctor who wouldn't succumb to the sheriff's evil ways. Now, American Gothic was just a really cool show to watch. It really, predated what would come in less than a decade's time in terms of serialized genre storytelling. But like I said, if you want to watch a show that has Gary Cole just oozing devilish charisma as he has this town, this southern town, eating out of the palm of his hand against their will, making these backdoor deals for people's souls so that he maintains control of this town. As the supernatural plays in and out, it's an inversion, a dark shadow to the Andy Griffith Show. And my God, it was just an absolute staple for like the 13 episodes or so that it was on in my life. And I've never seen her in another project that I'm familiar with. So it was, I guess I would say that this remembering American Gothic as I watched this show was probably the highlight of this movie, which has less to do about trucks and more to do with a show that no one remembers anymore. So, check out American Gothic and stay tuned for the American Gothic cast, one man's musings on all the works of American Gothic. Anyway, so we meet soon after meeting Hope. We meet Ray, played by Timothy Busfield. And I'm gonna just get this out of the way. At the time of this recording, there are some pretty heinous accusations against Busfield. I'm not going to go into them. I'm not going to celebrate him. I'm not even going to really talk about him other than the actions of the character itself. But I do want to point out that at the time of watching this, it was icky to watch him on the screen just as these allegations, these really, really, really awful allegations were coming out. So again, if you are not aware of it, you can do the research. If you are aware of it, please note that in no way is this any sort of ringing endorsement of this actor. But I do want to acknowledge that this news did occur at the same time that I happened to be watching it. Okay, so we do meet Ray and his son Logan. Hope heads into town to pick up some supplies and immediately encounters an abrasive and harassing trucker. Hope picks up her guests, some backpacking ufologists, and the movie goes back to the trucker who starts to lose control of his truck, wrestling with the wheel, unable to control it. It dies on the side of the road and he steps out to examine it. Hearing something from the inside, he unlocks it from the outside, steps inside, and bing, bang, boom, he's locked from within. Meanwhile, Hope fills her guests in on the town of Lunar, where a meteor had once crashed. We learn a little more about her passengers, including the surly teenager Abby and her father. As they make their way back to the diner/gas station, they start encountering strange automobile activity, including the trucker's rig on the side of the road and a truck in the middle of the road. The big rig comes bearing down on them and nearly runs them over. It smashes their car and keeps heading down the road. Having survived, they discuss the impossibility of seeing the truck drive by itself. Back at the cabins, the married couple, the Jaegers, arrive on the scene and start to settle into their getaway. They are so self-absorbed, they don't notice the runaway truck gunning directly for them. After an afternoon of trading barbs with one another, they tumble into their bed while the truck begins to circle the diner goers like a shark swimming around a seal right before the first bite. Elsewhere, another truck drives itself and its driver straight into the electrical box, effectively cutting off all power to the town. With the power out and the truck circling the diner, the patrons start to make sense out of what they're experiencing, while we meet two men in hazmat suits discussing that they're being dispatched to clean up a chemical spill, which starts to tease the origins of what might be occurring here. After picking up Hope and the others, Ray and the crew are attacked by another vehicle come to life, while the diner patrons realize that they're trapped inside by a circling monstrous 18-wheeler. A news broadcast informs the viewers not to go into town due to a dangerous chemical spill. The local mailman doesn't get the memo, and he's immediately attacked by a toy dump truck, which rams his ankle with so much force he falls down and succumbs to the bludgeoning. This is a stupid, far-fetched death, more appropriate for the campiness in Maximum Overdrive than here. This movie is devoid of any fun, so while this was a change of tone, it comes completely out of the blue and feels completely tacked on. Ray, Hope, and the rest return to the diner, and they're able to get inside before they're run over by the sentient vehicles. We now have two camps of characters: the diner patrons, comprised of Ray, Hope, the New Age ufologist, patrons, and the cook, while across the way in the garage are the married couple and Abby and Logan. Inside the diner, they try to determine the rationale and origins of the truck coming to life, and for some reason, Ray is shocked that the others are suggesting Area 51 as an explanation. as if that's too outlandish to explain trucks driving themselves with an intent to kill all of them. The hazmat workers unfortunately don't get that much further because their truck becomes overtaken by the effects of the spill, and their hazmat suits fill up with a life of their own and are strong enough to grab axes to murder them. It's a clever enough departure from the monotony of the trucks themselves, but it's like something more out of Airplane with the autopilot coming to life. It was funny in that movie. A classic, don't get me wrong. I love Airplane. But here it's just tiring. Got to admit, by this point, I was having a hard time watching the movie. It completely uninteresting. It's just so boring. They try to create some dramatic tension with the appearance of a gun, which sets off Ray and gives the needless backstory of how his wife had been murdered in a drive-by. So now we have an origin story for why Ray doesn't like guns and doesn't want them in his diner, something that no one asked for and doesn't have any impact on the plot. Over in the garage, the husband of the couple is squashed to death by the truck that's in there. After it escapes, the wife runs after it with an axe, screaming "murderer, murderer," and tries to kill it. The truck then circles around the corpse of the murdered, and then they begin beeping at each other. Okay, inside the diner, Ray and Hope start discussing their respective partners. One who lost theirs to gun violence, the other who had to flee. She had to flee away from. Logan and Abby make a run for it into the drainage pipe, but before they can celebrate, the dump truck backs up a bunch of rocks, blocking their exit. Ray hilariously runs outside and starts throwing rocks at the trucks and starts firing rounds from his pistol at them. Of course, this does nothing to them, and before he's squashed between two of the trucks, they stop. No one knows why, and causes Logan from behind the rubble to ask his father, why did the trucks stop? Okay, maybe it was because I had a head cold at the time and wasn't thinking clearly, but I thought it was a pile of rocks telling a joke. And it would have lightened the movie. Unfortunately, there was no punchline to follow up that particular joke. There's a would-be mutiny from inside the diner. A trucker leaves. Everyone attempts to stop him from leaving. I don't know why. Outside, the man, having just escaped, just stands there. Ray is mad at him and points a gun. Okay. And again, I'm just struggling right now. And maybe as I was taking these notes, maybe it was my brain fog where I wasn't able to follow, but I am not sure what the story is trying to convey to me at this moment. Why is Ray angry at the man for leaving the diner to the point where he would point his gun at him? Remember that Ray does not like guns. I assume it's because Ray is currently trying to coax his son out of a pile of rubble and from underneath the sleeping truck. I assume that the man being a wild card could cause the death of his son. So even if that's the case, why is the man just standing there? He fought his way out of the diner to get outside, so why is he just stopping in the middle of the dusty parking lot? It just, to me, it seems as though they're trying to create tension, but like I said at the beginning of this review, it's empty calories. It's not tethered to actual reality or the actions that people would take in this scenario. This is more far-fetched that these characters are acting this way than it is to believe that trucks are coming to the life of their own accord. Anyway, the guy makes his way into the garage where he makes a Molotov cocktail and throws it at the circling killer automobiles. Inexplicably, one of the patrons runs outside to protect his truck from the bad man trying to hurt it. And I just don't get it. I don't understand the tone that they're going for. Again, if this happened in Maximum Overdrive, God bless you. Okay, it fits. Someone trying to protect their truck, even though they know their truck is trying to kill people, trying to protect their truck as if it's their dog. Like, this does not make any sense for a character standpoint or from a viewing standpoint for what this movie is trying to convey to us. Anyway, the truck crashes into the garage, which crumples like cardboard. You should actually watch this scene. The way that the garage is constructed, it's ridiculous looking. And anyway, so it crumples like cardboard. Big fire, go boom. That night, the outside payphone starts ringing, and Abby runs over to answer it. The peacenik ufologist runs out to save her, and he's promptly run over. And then Ray realizes that the only reason he's being kept alive and why the trucks haven't demolished the diner is because they need him to pump gas. He starts pumping, and then the gang makes a break for it. The cook shoots at one of the cars, which I love. This is amazing. It just dies. One guy, it just promptly sags and dies. Elsewhere, for no reason, just because they needed a kill somewhere, a telephone line technician is murdered by his bucket loader. Okay. The crew narrowly escapes the burned-up killer truck, but is saved by the returning Army patron and his daughter Abby in a helicopter, which flies them away. But in a twist ending, Ray discovers that no one is flying the chopper, as it says to them, "Just hang on, folks. Just hang on." The end. Okay. Got some questions. Question 1. Why? No, okay. I will get to that larger question in a second, but let's just stick with the ending here. What am I supposed to take away from this? Are we to assume that the vehicles are speaking now, or is that a voice through the radio? Now, why would the helicopter pick them up if the other truck wanted them dead? So, am I to believe that in this reality, in the world established within trucks, that there are equivalents to Autobots and Decepticons? Had we only spent time with the evil vehicles? Was this group then saved by one of the good ones? Do they all have their own personalities? Or are they a hive mind? These are questions that are left lingering, and it's not anything that are posed by the movie itself. These are questions that I am just conjuring in order to make more sense of the time that I spent with this absolute car crash on fire on the side of the road version of a movie. The big question is, why was this made? I can understand Stephen King desperately trying to remake The Shining again because he just did not agree with Stanley Kubrick's version. I can understand that. The Shining is a strong story. I get it. Why do you want to remake Maximum Overdrive? This is not anything that anyone was clamoring for, and it's not as if there isn't an entire catalog of short stories to choose from that would have been better options than a movie that was already made once. So I don't know. I don't know why this was made, and I don't know why I watched it. Well, I do, for all of your enjoyment, and I hope that you did enjoy it. But me watching it, if you have not watched it, don't. This review will suffice. It is thankfully shorter than the movie, and if you do want to watch a movie about killer cars based on a work by Stephen King, watch Maximum Overdrive. And enjoy Maximum Overdrive and steer clear from the car crash known as the 1997 adaptation of Stephen King's short story from, is this Skeleton Crew or is this Night Shift? From Night Shift, just avoid trucks. All right, everyone, that is all that I have for this week. If you do enjoy trucks, this adaptation, if you are a truck stan and truther, please write into stephenkingcast@yahoo.com to tell me all the reasons why I am wrong. If you have any thoughts on any of the adaptations of Stephen King, how you got into Stephen King, anything that you want to share, please write into stephenkingcast@yahoo.com. Make sure that you head on over to the website, check it out for the Spotify playlists, for the curated collections for you, and you can be able to access all of the episodes at your fingertips right there. Also, check out the Patreon. Check out the Patreon page. There is a link to the Patreon at stephenkingcast.com, and you can choose which tier you would like. One tier has all of the forthcoming episodes, which you can get access to early. And then the other tier is a slew of content not related to Stephen King for your enjoyment at your fingertips. So there's a lot of good stuff. I'll be pouring a lot of energy into the Patreon. So I would really appreciate it, everyone, if you headed on over there and subscribed to a tier. You won't be disappointed if you like the Stephen King cast. Also, feel free to follow me on Facebook and TikTok and Blue Sky and on Instagram. And if you have any time on your hands, please leave a review on any of the podcast platforms that you use to listen to the Stephen King cast. All right, everyone, that's all that I have for this week. So may you have long days and pleasant nights, and I'll see you here next time where MOON spells Stephen King cast.